How many times have you or your team hesitated to make a decision because you weren't sure if it was the right one? Or worse, how many times did someone move forward and it turned out to be a costly distraction? That's why we created the Freedom Filter. It gives your team the confidence to act and ensures those actions are aligned, intentional, and wise. To be clear, a lot of times when things stack up on our desk, when we're getting out of operations, they become decisions for us to make. And decision fatigue is a real thing. So whether those decisions are stacked on your physical desktop, on your computer desktop, or just on your mental desktop, it becomes an energy drain for you. This allows us to create a rubric for the entire company to use and for you to use as well. So that's why we created it, and that's why it's so important. This tool is not about red tape. It's not about slowing things down. In fact, it's the opposite. I like to think of the Freedom Filter as a permission slip. If the decision passes this filter, your team can move forward, even if you're not in the room. Now, that may mean once you look at this that there's some tweaks that you want to make it your own, but the basics are here. You could deploy it as is into your company to help your team empower decisions without micromanaging, to help you reinforce alignment, to help prevent founder bottlenecks, and again, to scale trust across the entire team. All right. Every decision must pass through 3 tiers. This is the Freedom Filter, and you can see this is part of our accountability engine program, but it's also part of our other long-term paid programs. The first is purpose. Does it align with our bigger why? The second is goals. Does it help us achieve what we've committed to do? And constraints. Can we realistically do this now? And we're going to go through each of these in detail, so you don't have to catch all of that. Let's start with purpose. Your strategic North Star. If you're in a paid program, you've spent considerable time really defining what success looks like for you and your business and how that is supported by your team. Does this reflect your purpose, your vision, your mission, your core values? Okay. And perhaps most importantly, are we solving the right problem or are we chasing noise? Too many times, and you know this because you've had the ideas and issues list before, and you know that we're looking for root problems. Too many times we're solving a surface problem and not a root problem. And that is what I mean when I say chasing noise. If it doesn't align with your purpose, take a minute, see if there's a way to reframe it so that it does. Not artificially, we're not forcing a square peg into a round hole here. It's just trying to look at it through a different lens so that we're not too quick to throw out a decision or an idea that doesn't necessarily align with our purpose. If it does not, this keeps us out of shiny object syndrome, and it keeps us rooted in what matters, just the purpose part of this. Okay? Now let's move on to goals. If it's past the purpose lens, then we need to focus on goals. And the whole thing about goals is, are we focused on progress? Does this decision advance a quarterly or annual goal? Is it tied to a client outcome or a strategic priority? We have all seen great ideas become distractions. But if a decision doesn't help you reach a specific goal, it's probably not the right move right now. So just to recap, if it passed the purpose lens, then it's something that we can and should do. Great. The goals is more about, should we do it now? Is now the time to do it? Does it help advance our goals? Okay. And lastly, let's talk about constraints, because those become our reality check. Do we have the capacity to do this? What gets displaced or deprioritized if we say yes? Because Not everything can be a number one priority. Are there risks, financial, legal, brand risks that are inherent in this decision that we need to consider? Sometimes an idea checks all the boxes except one. And that one thing, whether it's bandwidth or budget or timing, has to be considered. This is how we make intentional trade-offs instead of reactionary ones or reactive ones. What happens if you skip this constraint step is everybody's super excited. You head into this work and you get into the work and discover that you hadn't considered budget. You hadn't considered whether you had the capacity. And then all of a sudden, the project and the goals go sideways. That's what we are trying to avoid and think through with this constraints. We're trying to see around corners, and we're trying to be very intentional with what we're doing. Okay? So those are the three lenses of the freedom filter, but it doesn't stop there because we need to know what to do with this, right? After we've used these thinking tools, what do we do with this? Well, the first thing we do is we think about whether we own this decision or we escalate it. And this applies to you, and it applies to everybody on your team too. Does this decision fall within my role? If it does, super. Does it pass all three lenses? Yes. Then move forward and do what you need to do. Does it impact multiple departments or even business strategy? Then we need to escalate it. We need to talk to the leadership team or to the client delivery team. Escalate it, but escalate it with a recommendation. Don't just throw a problem out on the table and expect someone else to solve it for you. Make a recommendation and then solicit feedback on your recommendation. This will make your meetings much shorter too, by the way, because we don't have to do all the mental work of considering everything because we've refined it when we show up. Now, this gives your team clarity on what they own, and this gives them clarity on when it's time to bring in leadership. Either way, we've got them thinking like owners and not order takers. Okay? So let's talk about how to present a recommendation. We want to know when somebody comes to us with a recommendation or when we make a recommendation, we want to make it clear that we have thought through these things. So this decision supports our mission, values, by fill in the blank. And this helps us accomplish our goals through blank. And we've considered trade-offs and we recommend blank. So this is not about having a perfect answer. It's about showing that the thinking is sound, that you've done the work to think through things. Here's an example in action. The new tool aligns with our value of simplicity. It helps us meet our Q3 automation goals, and it fits within our ops time budget. I recommend we move forward. See how simple that is? That's what scalable leadership sounds like. Now, here's a crystal ball moment for you, and this isn't part of the slide deck, but I need to bring this up. Part of your culture needs to be, this is how we take care of each other. And you've heard me talk about that in other ways and shapes. But if someone has questions about the decision that's on the table, and they say things like, what happens if, or have you considered? We need to not only model it, but set the intention at the beginning when you roll this policy out to the whole company, that asking questions is not about poking holes in the recommendation. It's part of how we take care of each other and make sure that that we've thought through everything. I solicit that feedback when I make a recommendation to the team because I know that I have blind spots. And that's why I have people smarter than me on my team. I want them to say, hey, Jen, did you think about how long that's going to take? Because we're deep in client delivery revisions over here, and we don't have the time or the personnel to commit Oh, yes, I forgot that was what we're working on now. This can wait. We'll push this back to Q4. That type of thing. That is how we take care of each other. That is not picking on each other. That is acting on behalf of and in the best interest of the business and everybody on the team to raise those questions and constraints. Okay? But you have to be able to model that as leadership. You can't take it personally because it's not personal. It's about making the best decision for the business as a whole. Okay? So, along those lines, and this is what I was alluding to, we need to make it part of the culture. Use it in decision memos. Include it in internal proposals. I talked about you modeling it. They need to watch you walk through this and hear you walk through it out loud, because the more they can hear you and witness you making decisions, the more they can internalize that, and you'll start to feel like they can see around corners on your behalf. Discuss it during team planning. It all just needs to be part of how things go. This is how we do it here. This isn't a one-time framework. It becomes your leadership culture. Okay? So let this guide your team to act with confidence, with courage, and with clarity. If there are standing constraints, for example, that you need to make a checklist for, then make those changes. By all means, make this your own. But this is how we scale trust. This is how we build a business that doesn't depend on you to make decisions, but it also makes sure that the decisions that get made are in line with and have intention around achieving our goals toward our vision. We don't just make decisions, we design our future very intentionally with every choice. That's it. I have dropped a copy of the tool down below. Please make it your own. Thanks.